Imagine this. You spent 30 years working for this retirement, 6 months researching the right ship, and somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 making it happen. I've seen the line at guest services on day 2. It's full of people who realize too late that the tropical paradise they paid for is actually a construction zone or a tourist trap. That is exactly what is happening to thousands of cruisers right now. Not bad weather. Specific documented problems at 7 ports on popular itineraries. Problems most travel channels will not mention because it costs them sponsorship deals. Verified passenger data, port surveys, U.S. State Department advisories. Not opinion. All 7 ports in order. So today we will be discussing 7 ports that most cruisers are walking away from. I'm saving port 7 for last because it's the most expensive mistake you can make this year. And the cruise lines are literally hoping you don't check the news before you board. We will get there. Let's get to the data. Number 1, Nassau Port. Let's start with the most visited cruise port in the Caribbean, Nassau, Bahamas. 5.6 million passengers visited this port in 2024, and the CEO of Nassau Cruise Port Limited, Mike Mora Jr., stood at a public conference in 2023 and said this on the record: "We fail miserably in our service." Not a travel blogger, the man running the port. He said Nassau Port can realistically handle 5,000 to 7,000 people, but cruise lines are sending 26,000 on a single Tuesday. That is not a vacation. That is a crowd management problem where you paid to be part of it. But overcrowding is only part of why experienced cruisers are walking away. The bigger issue is the scam network operating in Nassau's port shopping district. And here is exactly how to spot it before it costs you. A guy in a crisp white shirt hands you a free sample, puts his hand on your shoulder, and before you know it, you're inside an air-conditioned shop with 3 people telling you your skin looks tired. That's the trap, gentlemen. It seems harmless. You are too polite to refuse. Inside, the pressure escalates quickly. By the time you are back on the ship, your credit card has been hit for thousands of dollars for products you did not agree to purchase. In February 2025, a Carnival Freedom passenger had nearly $10,000 charged this way. A Royal Caribbean passenger on Anthem of the Seas had an identical experience through the same network in 2024. Both cases verified through credit card disputes. The trap is free offer at the door. Just ignore it or walk past it. The clearest proof Nassau is broken? Royal Caribbean built Perfect Day at Coco Cay. Carnival built Celebration Key. Disney built Lookout Cay. The major lines are spending billions on private islands near Nassau because their own satisfaction data told them Nassau was not working. You do not spend that money on a port that is fine. If Nassau is on your itinerary, treat it as a ship day. Enjoy the pool you already paid for. Number 2, Cozumel Port. Cozumel is the 3rd busiest cruise port on the planet. 4.7 million passengers in 2025. Most came for the snorkeling and the reef. Here's what the brochure does not say. The reef has lost 80% of its coral since 1982. The year mass cruise traffic started arriving, a 4th pier is now being built directly over the last active restoration site. The marine biologist who has spent 20 years rebuilding it called it the last nail in the coffin. You are paying to snorkel in a reef that the port itself is finishing off. But here is what affects you more directly on the day you arrive. When 4 or 5 ships dock simultaneously, Cozumel becomes 30,000 people competing for the same 24 taxis in 90-degree heat. With a departure clock running, for anyone with knee problems or limited mobility, that wait alone is enough to wreck the day. And when you finally head back to the ship at Puerto Maya Pier, you cannot walk to the gangway in a straight line. The route is physically designed to take you through a shopping corridor. Rows of vendor stalls you must pass through to reboard. Cruise lines earn commission on every sale made there. The layout is not accidental. Book early morning excursions, get back before the afternoon crowds arrive, and go in knowing the reef you were sold is not what you will find. Number 3, Roatan Port. Roatan, Honduras, turquoise water, green hills, feels manageable, and that feeling is the trap. Cruise lines position Roatan as safer than the Honduran mainland. That is technically true. It is also the reason passengers arrive relaxed, drop their guard, and end up on a remote tour route that no cruise-vetted operator would have taken them on. Armed robbery incidents on isolated beaches and off-map routes are documented, not rumors. The dock at Cozumel drops you directly into unregulated taxi and vendor territory with no buffer. Prices are negotiated on the spot by operators with no oversight. Here is what most passengers only understand after the fact. If you booked your Roatan excursion independently and something goes wrong, your cruise line's back-to-ship guarantee does not cover you. That money is spent. You have no protection. Book only through your cruise line. Stay on the Western Bay. The view from a private remote beach is not worth the risk. Number 4. Montego Bay. Jamaica receives over 1.6 million cruise passengers every year, and the U.S. State Department has issued a Level 3 advisory, reconsider travel, for the entire island. Most passengers boarding those ships have never seen that advisory. Level 3 means the U.S. government is formally telling its citizens to think carefully before going. U.S. personnel are restricted from certain Jamaican parishes entirely. The country has one of the highest murder rates in the Western Hemisphere. Montego Bay's cruise zone is controlled. Step outside that perimeter and the advisory becomes your reality. The documented pattern is consistent. Pressure from unlicensed operators outside the zone escalates. Independent excursion operators have taken passengers into areas the cruise line does not sanction, with no protection when things went wrong. Jamaica can be a good day, but only with cruise line vetted excursions and no independent wandering past the resort boundary. If those conditions do not appeal to you, this is a completely legitimate port to sit out. Number 5. Venice. Here is one most people on European itineraries do not find out until they are already booked. Imagine paying for a hotel in Times Square and your bus drops you off in Philadelphia. That is what cruise lines are doing with Venice. In 2021, Italy permanently banned large cruise ships from Venice's lagoon. If your ship carries more than roughly 2,000 passengers, it does not dock in Venice. It docks in Ravenna, 90 miles away, 2 hours by road each direction. Norwegian Cruise Line pulled Venice from its schedules entirely and publicly stated the experience had fallen short of the standard they aimed to deliver. That is a cruise line admitting their own product does not work. A standard port call is 8 to 10 hours. 4 of those hours disappear in transfers before you see a single canal. Many passengers spend less than 3 hours in Venice before the return bus deadline. You booked one of the most iconic cities in the world. You got a transfer and a time limit. Before booking any Mediterranean itinerary listing Venice, find the actual docking port in your confirmation. If it says Ravenna, Trieste, or Chioggia, factor the math before you decide if the day is worth what you paid. Number 6. Ocho Rios. Ocho Rios. Same island as Montego Bay. Same Level 3 advisory. Cruisers rate it worse, and the reason is immediate. Unlike Falmouth's walled port, Ocho Rios has an open waterfront. No barrier between the gangway and the pressure. You step off the ship and you are in it. Unregulated taxi drivers, persistent vendors, solicitation that does not stop at no. For someone who booked this trip to relax, that first 10 minutes sets the tone for everything that follows. Dunn's River Falls is worth seeing. Getting there independently is not. Verified traveler accounts describe the full port day as an endurance event rather than a vacation, and that description repeats across hundreds of independent reviews, not just a few bad ones. Book Dunn's River Falls through your cruise line only. Do not negotiate at the dock. And know that many experienced cruisers have looked at Ocho Rios, done the math, and chosen the ship pool instead. Number 7. Labadee, Haiti. This is the one we mentioned at the start. Excursions paid for, cabanas reserved. Message at sea that the port is not happening. Here is why. Haiti is a Level 4 U.S. State Department travel advisory. Level 4 is the highest classification that exists. It does not mean exercise caution. It means do not travel. The same rating applied to active conflict zones, severe crime, political unrest, Widespread kidnapping that regularly includes U.S. citizens. U.S. government employees are barred from going entirely. Now here is what does not appear in the Royal Caribbean brochure. Labadee is a private peninsula they own inside Haiti. Zip lines, beaches, cabanas, a water park. Genuinely beautiful. Also surrounded by a perimeter fence guests cannot cross, because the country on the other side of that fence is level 4. Royal Caribbean is gambling with its private resort investment and calling it a Caribbean getaway. Most passengers sunbathing on that beach have no idea what country they are actually sitting in. The financial exposure is documented. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, gang violence in Haiti reached the point where Royal Caribbean could not reliably operate the property. Sailings canceled, itineraries rerouted. Passengers who had prepaid for excursion packages received onboard credits and a sea day. The day they planned their trip around, gone. If Labadee is on your 2026 itinerary, do not prepay for any port package without reading the cancellation terms. Check Royal Caribbean's live sailing updates before you depart. The port appearing on your schedule is not a guarantee it will happen. 7 ports, 7 documented patterns, and in every case the same gap between what the brochure sold and what the dock delivered. The cruisers walking away from these ports are not cynics. They are people who did the research before they arrived instead of after. That is the difference between a good trip and a guest services conversation you did not want to have. You worked too hard for this money to let a cruise line's marketing department spend it for you. Protect your trip. If this was useful, a like and subscribe helps this kind of content reach the people planning the same trips.